Shreya, how are you?
Hi, ma'am. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So, Shreya, tell me something about your educational background.
Yeah, so I am a master's in economics. I
Mm-hmm.
earned my master's in economics from Amity University, and I did my bachelor's in economics from Delhi University.
Okay.
After that, I started working as an intern in Docquity. It's a healthcare setup. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there I was working as a data analysis. So it's been
Okay.
6 months working there. Apart from that, I have interned with Quality Council of India and Ministry of
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture and Farmers Welfare as well in the kind of data analysis and management training. So
Okay.
yeah, that's my profile. And then I started doing this course with Ivy Professional School about
Mm-hmm.
certification in data science. So
Okay.
yeah, now I'm looking for jobs in this arena only. Yeah.
Okay. So you did masters in economics, so you must have some exposure to statistics as well, right? While during the
Yeah.
entire tenure over there. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that must be helping you a lot during this data analysis period right now, which you are
Yes,
doing
yes,
now.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am, surely. Yeah.
Okay, so like, why did you choose data science? Like after completing your master's in economics?
Yeah, so when I moved, like when I started my master's in economics, my expectations were only this that I would be there would be more exposure towards data, but
Mm-hmm.
it was not there. It was like a little theoretical subject. But
Yeah, right.
when I came across data science, I knew this is what I always wanted to do. So I read the curriculum, and yeah, that is why I moved to data science, mainly because I have done many internships, and during one of the
Mm-hmm.
internships with Quality Council of India, I was like properly exposed to the data.
Okay.
So there I knew that this is something which I really enjoy, and I think I would be doing well in future in this field. So this is
Okay.
why,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. So today's interview will mostly revolve around R, a little bit of statistics and machine learning applications in R. So what I'll do
Okay.
is that let's start with some basic R questions. So then we'll gradually move towards statistics and machine learning. Okay.
Okay.
My first question to you would be like, how would you list all the variables which are present in case of R? Suppose you created certain set of variables, how will you list them?
So there's this function ls and bracket. So this will list
Mhm.
all the variables present in our environment.
Okay. And what if you want to remove all the variables which are present?
In case I want to remove all the variables, there's like I can do this by remove function like remove bracket list, and in the bracket I'll write ls. So ls will bring out all the variables, and list
Mhm.
will like then remove function will remove it.
Okay.
So
Okay. So you'll
yeah,
just use the rm or remove function and within it
yeah,
you'll
yeah,
put the list.
yeah.
Okay.
Rm function.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. So what do you mean by reserved keywords?
Reserved keywords, ma'am. Reserved keywords are the ones which already have a specific meaning attached to them. Like, for example, max is a function. So we can't
Mhm.
use a max as a variable, or we can't use min as a variable.
Mhm.
So, or if else as a variable. So these are the like titles or keywords which already have a attached meaning to them in our language. So we don't use them naming our variables.
Okay. So they
So
can't be used as identifiers, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. They can't use an identifier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a quick way to identify the reserved keywords? Just by looking at a word, how can you identify?
I think when we write, like suppose if I'm writing, so it would
Mhm.
turn blue
Correct.
or like
Correct.
color, which yeah,
Yeah. So with the color
mm,
change, you can identify
yeah,
clearly.
yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Right. So what are the different data structures which are present in R?
Different data structures in R are list, matrix,
Mhm.
matrices, sorry, and data frames and vector. Uh, list, matrices, data frame, vector, array. So we have these uh,
So there's
data structures in R.
one. So there's one more. So
List, vector, matrices, array.
so let me give you
I
one
can't
hint.
recall.
So let me give
Yeah,
you one hint. So that would help you to identify the categorical variables very clearly. Like that's how the categorical
factor,
variables. Yes, correct.
factor. Yeah,
Yes, right.
yeah.
So So suppose you have, suppose you create a vector consisting of, suppose you create a vector using C, right? So you have certain elements over there like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then A, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you again create a list using the same set of elements like 1, 2, 3, 4, and A, okay?
Okay.
So what's the striking difference that you would notice in the output? If you
So
create a vector or a list?
one is the vector and list. Okay, so in case of list, it would be like I would be able to call back the list, but in case of vector, it won't accept A as the value because vector, I think, requires homogeneous set of values. So it either
Correct.
should be either character, all should be the characters, or all should be the numerical values. Whereas in
Correct.
list, we can have both.
Yes. So when you have vector, so when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and A, so all will be converted to the super data type, which is character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the actual data type won't be retained
Yeah.
or 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct.
Hmm.
So you know about the as.integer function. So there's a function called
Yes, ma'am.
as.integer. So
Yes, ma'am.
suppose I give you like C, and within bracket I give you certain numbers like 1.2, 2.4, and 3.3. Suppose these three numbers are being given. So can you tell me, will there be any difference between the as.integer and the floor function if that is being
Well,
applied to this?
yeah, floor function will also like convert them to the smallest like largest number, which is less than the existing number. And as dot integer would do the same thing. However, as dot integer we can also use to convert characters to integer values.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So when you'll be doing it for characters, so you would be able to see that they will be given as any. So when you'll be trying it on character. But yes, you're
Yeah.
right. So when you'll be applying it on numbers, so both of them, the functionality of both of them will be same. So there won't be any
Yes.
difference. Yes, correct. So you have heard about the sapply function.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the role of that function?
So sapply function take two arguments. One is the input, and then there's a function. So in case in case my input is a data frame or say list or a vector, so function applies. The function I have given will be applied to each and every element of my input. So like for example, I'm passing my list, and I want my function to give me a max. Function I am using is max, so that max, like the maximum value would come out. So output is in the form of a vector or a matrices. Yeah.
So what if you pass a data frame? So what will happen?
So in
Suppose
case
your
I
input
pass a
is
data frame, yeah, so each and every element of the data frame will go through that function. Like that function will be applied to each and every element of that data frame.
So by element, you mean the columns, right?
Yeah,
So
columns.
it is a column-wise application of the function which you have specified.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So suppose you want to generate multiple plots in a window in R. So how would you generate that?
So the key is there's this thing PAR is equal to MF row. So if we specify
Not equal to. So just think it a little bit. Yes. So not par equal to. So it's that par. Then you open the bracket.
Par, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Par. Open the bracket. MF row. So MF row takes two arguments: row number and column number. So it divides our window into the parts. Like if I'm specifying 2 and 2 as a 2 rows and 2 columns, so it would divide our window in 4 parts.
Okay, suppose you want to create 5 plots together in that window. So how would you divide?
Yeah, so either I can do 3 rows and 2 columns, or I could do 2 rows and 3 columns.
So what you can do, you can also create 1 row and 5 columns. So that will exactly divide it into 5 portions.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so so you know how to install a package in R, like the exact function?
Yeah, it's install.packages and then open bracket, and we would write the name of the package.
So just the name of the package, or you have to put something else as well along with the name?
Location too.
No, not any extra keyword. So you just put the name just like that, or you put something else, and within that you put the name.
We put it in inverted commas.
Correct. So
Yeah.
that's the difference. So even if you don't put it, so then that would be installed on your system. And
Yeah.
if you use
Yes,
the
ma'am.
library function, do you still need to use the quotes after
Uh,
installing the
in
package? If you use the library function to call the package that you've installed, so over there while specifying the name, so do you still need to use the quotes or not?
no, like no, would we just like call the name of the package?
Yes, yes, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, so what is the purpose of the rbind function?
So our bind function is basically like it combines the rows together in form of matrices. So if there's a matrix and I want to add few more rows into it, so I would use our bind function.
Yeah, so not
Mhm.
only matrices, it can be data frames vectors as well. It's
Yeah,
just a combination of them by rows. So, and
yeah.
what did you say about the prerequisites? So, what are the criteria?
The length should be same.
Yes. So, length should be same in the sense.
Like
So,
length of the vector should be the same. Like suppose I'm adding the r bind, I'm adding a row which has like 4 columns into it, and my already
mhm.
existing structure is having 3 rows. So this won't happen. So it should have the same
So you mean the
length.
columns, right? Like number of
Yeah,
columns should
same.
be same.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And the names should also be the same. Otherwise, it
Yes,
won't
ma'am.
correct data won't be appended.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then okay, so some of the R basics questions are being asked. So let's now move on to some of the statistics questions now.
Okay.
So okay, so what do you mean by null hypothesis?
Ma'am, null hypothesis is basically the assumption which we are testing again, like which we are testing for. So, like for example, if I'm a manufacturer and I have claimed that my products are like 5% defective, so my null hypothesis would be that the products are like on an average 5% products are defective. So this would be the null hypothesis. And yeah,
Okay, so it's basically the initial claim or the assumption.
initial claim of the
Okay, when you test it, that
investigator.
becomes the yeah. So when you
Yeah,
test it, that becomes the hypothesis testing.
yes,
So,
ma'am.
can you tell me like what are the different types of alternative hypotheses which are present? So you can explain with an example.
Yeah, so just like in the similar case, if the investigator wants to claim if the null hypothesis is equal to a particular value, then alternative hypothesis would be either not equal to. So this would be a two-tailed test. In case if he wants to test for greater than or less than values, then the alternative hypothesis would be less than equal to or greater than equal to. And so there are 3 types: not equal to, greater than equal to, less than equal to. So we would have a two-tail test, one-tail test, left tail test,
Yes.
or right tail test.
Okay. So one is greater, less, another is not equal to.
Unequal, not equal to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Correct. So, so you have heard about different measures of central tendency, right? Like
Yes,
which are
ma'am.
present. So, what are the measures of central tendency for a continuous variable?
Ma'am, mean, median, mode,
So, mode is
standard deviation. Mode is more like we use it more in case of categorical variables,
categorical. Yeah.
but we can always find it out for continuous as well.
Yes. So,
Yeah, but it makes more sense for
for
categorical
categorical
variables.
ones. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for central tendency, it's mean and median, right?
Mean and median. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which one would be a better measure to use and why?
So it mostly depends on the data. In case my data has like more outliers, I would use
Mhm.
median. I would go with median. Otherwise, I would go with mean. So like both depend on the data, like what
Yeah.
type of
It's
data I
ba-
have.
yeah, it's basically it's since mean
Yeah.
outliers, so median would be a better measure in that
Yes,
case,
ma'am.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
correct. So, so you know what is multicollinearity?
Yes, ma'am. Multicollinearity is basically when our independent variables are linearly related to each other. So, in case of regression, for example, I have two variables which are linearly related to each other. For example, price and the age of a car. If these both are my independent variables, they are linearly related to each other or are related to each other. So, this will create multicollinearity in our data.
Can you give some more examples, like some other example for multicollinearity? Like just by looking at the columns, how you can see, like even without analyzing, just by the name of the
Yeah.
columns, you can also say like this are correlated. like the description of the columns. Can you give such examples?
Age and weight, like not
Hmm.
really, like in
So there
hypothetically
might
we can
be.
assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be.
Yeah.
Not in reality though. But
So
yeah,
another
height
example.
and weight. Sorry, height and weight could be one example.
Yeah, so another one could be like just using the same variable but in different units, like
Yeah,
age in days and age in months. So they are
yeah,
like representing the
exactly.
same thing, right?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you check for multicollinearity?
Ma'am, multicollinearity can be checked through, there's this variance inflation factor, VIF. So if it's greater than 5 or 10, so it basically tells that like the variance is already inflated. So if it's greater than 5 or 10, it it gives an indication that there exists multicollinearity in the
Okay.
data.
Okay, so can you just explain like what is VIF? Like if you just break the word like the VIF, so it's what variance inflation factor. So
Variance
what it is
inflation factor.
yeah, so what it is talking about?
Like by literal meaning of the word, I can guess that variance inflation factor is basically like, for example, if I have a variable and every variable has its own variability, so the variance inflation factor will tell me how much like inflated that variance is, like
It's a standard error
unnecessary
squared, right?
inflated. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
So that if, how much the standard error squared is inflated because of the presence
Yes,
of multicollinearity.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
correct. So, so you have heard about two sample t-test and pair t-test.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the difference between these two?
So paired t-test is basically in case when our data set is interrelated to each other, like dependent on each other, like we have, and two sample t-test is when we have two different samples. So in case of paired t-test, it can be like given set of observations,
So you can explain
treated.
with an example. So I think
Yes,
that would be
ma'am.
better. Yeah.
Yes, like for example, there are 5 candidature, and we are treating like we have treated them on the basis of a vaccine.
Mhm.
So in case of before and after situation of same candidatures, we
Correct.
would do paired t-test.
Hmm.
But in case we have two different sets, like people who are above a particular age and people who are below a particular age, so these are two different samples. So if we want to see a people like above a particular age have this average weight, and this people below a particular age have this average age. If we want to compare these two means, then we do two sample test.
Okay. So basically in two sample test, we consider two population and samples are drawn
Two
from those two
populations.
populations. Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So what is the difference between SRSWR and SRSWOR?
Okay. One is sample like with replacement, and other is without replacement.
Hmm.
So in case of with replacement, every entity in the population have equal chance of being represented.
Hmm.
However, in case of without replacement, the remaining ones have equal chance of being picked up again.
Okay. Once you take one observation out, that can
Yeah,
occur
we,
again.
we don't we don't place it back in case of
Right.
without replacement. Yeah.
Right. So in case of R, so do you know the function with which you can extract the random samples?
Sample function.
Yes, correct. So,
Yeah.
and what argument makes the difference, like between a simple random sampling with replacement and without replacement? Like which argument actually creates the difference in the sample function?
I think we do true or false first. One thing I'm not remembering the name.
Yeah. So what is the
We
argument name?
do true in case. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
not remembering the argument name, but we yeah.
yeah, it's replace. So whether replace is equal to true
Replace.
or
Yeah.
replace is equal to
Yeah.
false. Yeah,
Yes,
correct.
ma'am.
So what is ANOVA?
Ma'am, ANOVA test is basically test done for categorical variables. When we want to compare the relationship between a categorical and a continuous variable, we do ANOVA test. So ANOVA test basically gives us a p-value, and it has a null hypothesis. The null hypothesis states that there's no relation between the two variables, and the p-value when compared with significance level, it tells us if we want to reject the null hypothesis or accept the null hypothesis. So basically, ANOVA test tells us about the relationship between a categorical and a continuous variable.
Okay, so when I talk about ANOVA, so again coming here, like the full form is what? Analysis of variance. So what it is actually talking about? Like analysis of variance of what?
Between the two variables, like it compares the variance between the two.
Yeah, so it basically checks like what is the variance in the continuous variable. So due to the different values in the categorical variable.
Categorical variables, yeah.
Yes. So suppose you get a p-value of 0.45. So what would be your interpretation in this ANOVA test I'm talking
about? 0.45. Okay. In case my significance level is 5%, 0.05. So 0.45 would be higher than 0.05. So we would like if it's less than the significance level, we reject the null hypothesis. But if it's greater than the significance level, we accept the null hypothesis. So we would accept the null hypothesis that there, like, we accept the null hypothesis, there is no relation between the two.
Yes, two variables which are being taken into consideration, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So what are dummy variables and what is a reference category?
Yes, so dummy variables is basically, dummy variables are we use dummy variables basically when, like for example, we have gender as a column. It's a categorical column. It would either have a male or a female. So it would be either a 0 or a 1 if we change it. So dummy variable basically helps us in our analysis by converting the categorical variable into a numerical form. So it is not like that 0 is greater than 1 or 1 is greater than 0. It's just a dummy dummy criteria to it.
So and dummies are basically absence or presence of a category, right? Whichever you're talking about. So then what is reference category?
Reference category is basically like in case we have three variables. So three categories. So in case we have three categories, one of which will be kept as a reference for the easier interpretation. Like for example, if I'm checking for income and political information of people, so it would be Democrat, Republic, or independent voter. So in case if we have these three, so it would be either 0 for Democrat, 1 for Republican, and independent voter would be termed as a reference category. We won't give it a 2 or a 3 number.
So even though it's present in your categorical variable, so you won't keep it because the last one, the last category or the reference one can automatically be derived from the rest two. So if you have those two columns as dummies, so the third one can automatically be derived if you have all those positions as zeros where those two dummies were taking 1, and automatically you can get the third one, right?
Yeah.
So correct. So if you now consider in R, so you have seen, right, that when you get the linear regression summary, so you don't get all the dummies, right? The reference category is being excluded from the result. So how is the reference category being chosen by default in R? Suppose you have 3 category names, like for example, CNG, petrol, and diesel, right? So suppose these are the categories present in a column. So one will be excluded, right, from these three. So which one would be excluded and what logic R actually follows while doing this?
Okay, so in this case, CNG would be excluded because it follows alphanumeric. So in case A, B, C, like it would give the preference to A and then B. And if it's a number, then it would give preference to 0 and then 1.
Correct. Okay.
This is
that order is being followed. Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you mean by correlation?
Ma'am, correlation basically it measures the strength between two variables. Like for example, it can be either positive or negative, but it tells us about the strength. Like if the relationship between the two variables is like positive or negative, or like there's no correlation between them. So like for example, if I have height and weight only, if they show me a positive correlation, it shows that if age is like if height is increasing, weight is also increasing. However, it shows negative correlation. It shows that it's a like downward sloping curve, like it is downward sloping, and it shows if one is increasing, the other would decrease. So correlation
so
basically
relationship
tells us
would be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, so let me ask you a few questions from linear regression. Okay. So, so tell me, like, which criteria is being taken into account to find the optimal values of MNC, MNC, like intercept and slope. So these values. So, like,
Yeah.
which criteria?
MNC.
Yeah. So, which criteria would you take into account?
Okay, so the best, like the best value of MNC, we calculate it through gradient descent. Like in case of like R, we do it through gradient descent. Also, we do like in case we are doing a OLS estimator, then we used to do partial differentiation and then differentiation and
Mhm.
then partial differentiation. So
So, what do you
by
try to minimize? So, what is
yeah, we
the,
minimize the
so
error
just
term,
the
like
error, just the error, or you take
sum
some,
of yeah, sum of square, yeah,
yes,
of
some of,
actual minus predicted value, yeah,
yes, sum of squared errors, right?
sum of
Okay.
square error, yeah.
Okay. So, what is the ideal value of SSE?
SSE,
Yes. So, sum of squared errors. So, what is the
yeah,
ideal value of that?
lowest possible, like the lowest possible value
No,
would be
suppose
the
you are
ideal
living in a
value.
perfect world. Okay. So, then
Zero.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, so how the data points should be? So, for which you can have this ideal value?
In case SSE is zero, then our all the data points would lie on our best fit line, like on the regression line.
Like they will
So
all
there
be
would be
aligned
no
in a
error.
straight line, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So, so do you know the difference between R squared and adjusted R squared?
Yes, ma'am. R squared basically tells us like what proportion of our dependent variable is being explained by our independent variable, and adjusted R squared does the same thing, but it only like it is a better measure because it given account of the number of variables like n. So basically, in case I have a model and I keep on increasing my variables, so my R square would keep on increasing, but
Okay.
my adjusted R square would increase only if it like if the variable makes sense to the model.
Okay.
So yeah,
So it will remove the effect of redundant variables,
yeah.
right? Okay, correct. So, so relating it to the case of SSE, so what will be the case in the ideal world? So over there, so when all the points are being aligned in a straight line, so there you have the SSE is equal to 0. So what about the value of R squared? What will it be?
I think it would be 100%, like
Yes,
everything is being explained
yes,
by the model.
correct.
Yeah,
So it will be 1, right? 1 or
yeah,
100%.
one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, how can you calculate the accuracy of a linear regression model? Like, what are the
Ma'am, we
measures?
use yeah, mean accuracy prediction. Like we subtract the predicted value from the actual value, and we take a mean of it, absolute mean. We take the absolute value and then we take the mean of it, and the mean we divide by like we subtract it from 100, and we get the mean accuracy.
So
And in
first of
case
all,
of
you get the
median,
absolute percentage errors, right?
yeah, absolute percentage error. Yeah,
Okay. So then you get the accuracy by subtracting it from 100
yeah,
by taking
yeah.
mean or median. So since,
Mean or median.
yeah, so over here, so suppose in one case study, you get mean and median accuracy figures, both are very different from each other. Okay. So can you tell me what could be the possible reason behind this?
I think the main
Suppose,
reason mean and median are
yes,
always different is because of the outliers.
yes. So over here, what are exactly the outliers? Suppose you have median accuracy as very high, around 80% or something, and mean accuracy is very low, around 20%. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
what is exactly causing the deviation? Yes, you're right, it's outliers, but what are outliers
Yeah.
in this case?
So outliers in this case would be the difference in the actual and predicted value. Yeah, so in case of mean, they must be like the difference would be very high, and hence the like mean prediction,
Correct.
like mean accuracy is higher, and median would be low, so hence the median value is lower.
So you're talking about the error, right? So
Error
error
term,
would
yes.
be, yeah. So as a
Yeah.
result, the opposite will happen in case of the accuracy once you get the error.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's basically
Yeah.
when you have certain kind of errors or some values of the errors which are very different from the rest of the values, some very high values of errors. So that's where you have the
Yes.
mean being affected by the outliers,
Yeah.
and as a result, you have the very high level of error, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, so you have heard about PCA,
Yes,
principal
ma'am.
component
Principal
analysis?
component
Yeah.
analysis. Yeah.
So, what is it used for? Like, why do we need PCA?
Yes, ma'am. So PCA basically when we have a high dimension data set, like for example, even after doing EDA and all the tests and everything, we see that we still have say around 500 columns or like greater than them. So we do PCA to minimize the number of columns. And so it basically combines certain variables together and then check for like, then all this is done on the back end. So it checks for like the cost function is basically that it checks for like correlation between the two principal components. So it random like it takes certain variables together and combine them together and give them some weightage, and then it combines certain other variables together and give them weightage and combine them together to form a
Any
PC2
variables are
score.
combined?
So
Any variables are combined, or similar variables are combined?
similar variables are combined.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is how PCA like does it. So
Okay.
yeah.
And in case of PCA, so over there, so normalization or standardization is very important of the variables.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
before you apply PCA, so why is that so? So why do we need at all normalization or standardization?
So basically, standardization and normalization is important because, like, for example, if we have, like, we are here talking about combining certain variables together. Now, variables may be different in different range. Like, for example, age may vary from 1 to 100, whereas, like, something else would vary from 300 to 500.
Mhm.
So, if we are thinking about combining certain variables together, we need to scale them in like in proportion, like all should be in certain proportion, otherwise the unnecessary loadings would be higher. So so this is why scaling is important for like standardization is important for these.
Yes, so unnecessary amount of loadings will be given to variables with high amount of
Yeah,
variance, so which is not
high amount
required.
of it, which is
Yes,
not required. Yeah.
correct.
Mhm.
So, so you have heard about entropy.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is entropy used for?
Entropy is used that I have like I've seen entropy being used in decision trees and these type of algorithms. So basically entropy tells us about like tells us about a particular set, like if there's like the if there's any mix, it's a homogeneous mixture or like it's a heterogeneous set.
It
So
talks about the randomness, right?
randomness, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over there, so when can you have, so can you tell me the situations when you can have the maximum and the minimum value?
Yeah, so entropy can be highest when we have the like when the entire data set is going to two parts, like 50-50%. So entropy would be
Correct.
one in this case. Whereas if all is like if it's a homogeneous group, all are similar, then it would be zero. So this would be the lowest possible entropy.
Okay. So we should try to have a lower value or a higher value.
We should try to have a lower value for like child nodes and everything. So
Correct.
yeah.
So you must be knowing that there's a similar concept related to entropy. So which is information
Information gain.
gain. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So can you state the scenario when we can have the maximum information gain in a classification decision tree?
Yeah, information gain would be higher when the entropy like when the entropy value is the lowest. Like information gain tells us about what information we have gathered by like splitting the parent node into child node. So yeah.
So when can it be the highest one? So like you have said, so so I have
Yeah.
to move from the parent node to the child node, right? So over
Yeah.
there, so how it should be such that the information gain is the highest.
That it have accurately like splitted into the child nodes, that child node is now homogeneous, so entropy is the lowest.
Yeah. So when you have the parent node having the highest value of the entropy and the child nodes having the least
Having the
value.
lowest, yeah,
Yes. So there where you have the maximum amount with of
of
difference, and
information gain.
yes,
Yeah.
correct. So now that we have discussed about linear regression. So now we have another type of algorithm, which is logistic regression, right? So what is the difference between logistic linear regression and linear regression?
Yeah, so in linear regression, we try to fit a line. So this is like in layman terms. In linear regression, we try to fit a line to our data points. Whereas in logistic regression, we can't fit a line. We fit a logit curve or a sigmoid curve to our data sets. Like for example, in case of linear regression, for example, if we are predicting a salary or say price, so it could vary around, like it's a continuous variable. It could vary around like infinite number. But in case of logistic regression, we have two scenario or three scenario. Like we have two scenario. Either a person would survive or not survive. Either a person would eat or not eat. So this is the kind of situation. So in case of logistic regression, when we try to fit the curve, so the data points are around either like 0 or around 1. So when our probability lies around like it's 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, we categorize it as 1. And when it's around 0.4, 0.2, we categorize it as 0.
Yeah, based on a threshold value, right?
Based on a threshold value, yes.
Yeah. So the major difference lies in the target variable, right? So like how your target variable is. Okay. So what are type 1 and type 2 errors in case of logistic regression?
Yeah, so type 2 error is when we have, like in case of cancer patient only, if I say. So type 2 error is like more bad. So type 2 error basically tells me that if a person is cancer positive, but I have given him a negative. So this would be a false negative, yeah. And type 1 error would be if the person is negative and I have given him the positive. So it would be a false positive.
Correct. So one is false positive, which is type 1, and false negative is type 2.
Type 2, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you have done clustering?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there are two concepts for evaluation of clusters, like within cluster sum of squares and between cluster sum of squares. So what are these two measures? Can you explain?
Yeah. So within, can I draw?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So in case I have two clusters, so within sum of square, like within one would like calculate the distance between the centroid and all the points, whereas between sum of squares would calculate the distance between the centroid of all the clusters. So like in this case, this would calculate the distance between all the.
So can you just yes, I can see. Yeah, tell me.
So yeah, this is within sum of square, and if I calculate the distance between the centroid and the other clusters, this is between sum of squares.
So within sum of squares calculates the Euclidean distance between the points and the center, and then you have to divide it by the total number of points.
Yeah.
So total, because you need to take into account like how many points are present in that particular cluster. It talks about the variation within a cluster, right? And what about between sum of squares?
Between sum of square calculates the distance between different centroids in different clusters. So it calculates a Euclidean distance between all the centroids and all the clusters, and that divided like number of clusters.
Okay. So what would you try to have? A high value of WCSS or a low value?
WCSS would I would prefer WCSS to be low. Then my cluster would be more compact. And regarding the between cluster sum of squares, I would want my clusters to, like, if they are a cluster, they should be having a distance between themselves, right?
So there should be very minimum amount of overlapping between them.
Yeah. So yeah, that should be high. BCSS should be high, and that should be WCSS should be low.
Correct.
Yeah.
So tell me, so you have done time series?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how can you break the observed time series into its different components?
So time series can be broken down into like three parts. One is random component, then trend component, and then seasonal component. So So these three components are there. Random is something which we can't explain. Seasonal is based on the like calendar values, and trend is something which is like a particular trend. It's going up or going down.
Yes,
So
long-term increase or decrease in the
long
data.
term, yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
So can you explain seasonality a little bit more? Like what is seasonal?
Like for example, in case we have like Swiggy data set, so in that case we are like we see the like revenue trend on Diwali, like at Diwali times it goes up and then it goes a little down, and then basically festive season it goes up. So seasonal trend basically tells us about a particular trend, like yearly trend, that in fourth quarter our prices would be high, in first quarter our prices would be low. So
Okay, so
if we are
something which
able
is
to,
repetitively happening in your data.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
for every Christmas, the number of people traveling would be high.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like something which is happening repetitively.
yeah.
Yes, correct. Okay, so Shreya, so the next question would be like, what is a stationary time series?
Ma'am, stationary time series is basically when the time series is not affected by the time or like seasonal or a trend component. So whenever the series is not like dependent on a particular time or calendar value or a trend, it's a stationary time series.
Okay, okay. So tell me first. So I'll move on to the concept of ARIMA, but previously tell me. So what do you mean by AR? So which is one of the components of ARIMA, right?
Yeah. So AR is auto-regressive, and it's a part of ARIMA. So it gives us a p-value. So p-value basically, so the p-value is basically the lagged time difference. So for example, if p-value is 2, then our y-value would depend on 2 time differences. It would be yt and yt minus 1, or yt minus 1 or yt minus 2. So this is like AR.
Okay, so it's basically when a particular value of y depends on its own lags. So it's like
Yes.
regression on itself, where you have lagged values of y as predictors, right? So that's why the term came from. So it's like from multiple linear regression, where you have the different values of x1, x2, and so on as predictors. Over here, you have just the lagged values of the own variable as predictors. Right?
Yeah.
So now if you have the case of ARIMA model, so in ARIMA, so there are three parameters, P, D, and Q, as you know. So you have already said that P is for the AR1. So D and Q are for differencing and the moving average. So
Yeah.
now if I ask you to derive the AR model from the ARIMA model, so how can you get that?
I think by not including D and Q, we would get AR model from the ARIMA model.
Hmm. So,
Yeah.
so basically, so there will be no differencing and all the MA terms will
Yeah.
vanish. If you have
Yeah.
basically Q is equal to 0. So
Yeah.
it's basically ARIMA P00 is basically the AR model. Okay.
Yeah.
So like if I now ask you like how can you get the MA1 from ARIMA? So just following the similar logic.
Yeah. So by not including P and D, so P and D value would be 0, to would get Q value, which would be moving average value.
Yes. So it's just ARIMA 00Q. So that's how you will get the moving average one. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, then. So I have pretty much covered a lot of questions from time series clustering and all of that, and statistics and R as well. So yeah, it was a good interview. So it was nice talking to you. So thank you, Shreya.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.